The moon was cold and silent, with no light in the sky, no sound in the wind, and no color in the dust. The old bunker sat like a buried beast forgotten by time. Hidden deep beneath cracked stone and broken machines above the surface, nothing moved. Only the whisper of old metal creaking under the weak gravity. Jace was alone, moving through the ruins. His boots silent against the ground, his breathing steady inside his helmet. His scanner blinked faintly, showing signs of old tech deep below. He was a scavenger, one of many who searched dead worlds for anything useful to sell: parts, wires, crystals, sometimes food if lucky. He liked silence. He trusted it more than people. He entered the bunker through a narrow crack in the wall, crawling through broken beams and loose rocks. Inside, the air was thick with dust. The lights were dead, but his visor showed the way. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing softly like old paint. They looked like stars and animals and something like a crown, but twisted. He stepped carefully deeper into the dark. The scanner beeped again, showing a signal, not tech, not metal, but warm like life. He frowned and followed it. The path turned into a tight tunnel, then a round chamber with walls covered in burn marks and deep scratches, and in the center stood a cage, small and round, made of silver rods, humming with old energy. Inside the cage sat a girl no taller than Jace's waist. Her skin was pale purple, her eyes big and bright like twin moons. Her hair floated like smoke in water. She had no clothes, just a cloth wrapped around her thin frame. She looked at him, not scared, just tired. Her lips moved, but no sound. Cameus froze, staring at her, unsure what he had found: a prisoner, a ghost, a trick of light. She raised one hand and placed it on the cage bars, her fingers tiny and shaking, her eyes never blinking. The scanner showed her heart beating slow and weak. He could see bruises on her arms and dirt on her knees. He stepped closer and knelt down. She did not move. He touched the cage. It was cold, then warm, then cold again, like it was alive. His fingers found an old control panel, cracked and broken, but still glowing with some kind of energy. He pressed a button. Nothing happened. He tried another and another until the cage clicked and the rods melted away like water. She fell forward into his arms, light as air, her body shaking, her breathing fast, her eyes closing. He caught her and stood up, holding her like a doll. Her skin felt soft but cold. He wrapped her in his jacket and looked around for danger, but there was nothing. No guards, no alarms, just silence. Then a deep rumble shook. The ground, dust fell from the ceiling. A voice echoed through the tunnel, speaking in an alien tongue. The walls lit up with red light and old machines began to hum. Jace ran, holding the girl close, his feet slipping on the stone, the path behind him falling into darkness. He reached the surface just as the bunker collapsed into itself, rocks flying, machines bursting into sparks. He shielded the girl with his body, the shockwave pushing him back. He landed hard but kept her safe. She did not cry. She only held his shirt tight, her eyes still shut, her lips whispering something too soft to hear. His ship was nearby, hidden in the rocks. He climbed and sealed the hatch and turned on the engines, flying into orbit, leaving the dead moon behind. Alarms blinked on the screen, the ship's AI speaking fast, warning of unknown signals approaching, but Jace ignored it. He looked at the girl, now sleeping on his bed, curled like a cat. He had no idea who she was or why she was locked in that cage or what power kept her alive for so long, but he knew one thing: he could not leave her there to die. She was too small, too lost, too alone. He touched her hair, gentle and warm, and said softly, "You are safe now." The stars outside blinked like slow heartbeats. The ship drifted through black space, silent and calm, but something in the distance watched them. A signal sent, a message received, a name spoken in fear. "She is awake." Jace sat in the cockpit, his hands resting on the ship's console, his eyes on the stars ahead, but his mind stayed behind with the image of the cage and the girl who now slept in his bed, her chest rising slowly, her arms wrapped around the jacket he gave her, her skin still cold, her breath too shallow, like she was not meant to survive long outside that cage. He checked the scans again, no signs of pursuit yet, but something in his gut said danger was not far behind. The bunker was no random place, and that cage no ordinary prison. The way it vanished when unlocked, the strange symbols on the walls, the soft hum in the air, it all felt wrong, like he had touched something sacred or cursed. She moved in her sleep, a soft sound escaping her lips, not words, not cries, just the echo of fear. He turned and watched her for a moment, her face calm now, but lined with pain. Even while resting, she looked like she had seen things no child Should seethe ship AI broke the silence, alerting him of a nearby port. He needed supplies, water, food, maybe answers. He guided the ship toward the port, a small station orbiting a cold gas giant, mostly used by traders and miners, not the kind of place that asked too many questions. The landing was smooth, no guards, no customs, just a tired dock worker waving them in. Jace covered the girl with a blanket and lifted her gently. She stirred but did not wake. Her hand found his sleeve and gripped tight. Like she knew if she let go, he might disappear. He walked through the station, avoiding the crowd, his hood-up eyes forward, the girl silent in his arms, but drawing looks from a few travelers. Some stared curious, some frowned, but no one stopped him. Until he reached a medic stall where a thin alien woman looked up and blinked as if seeing a ghost. She asked what happened and who the child was. Jace said he found her in an old ruin, weak and alone. The medic scanned her with a trembling hand. The screen lit up and the woman gasped, her mouth open, but no words came. Then she whispered something under her breath and shut the scanner off, pulling Jace close and hissing in fear. Leave now, she said. They will come for you both. They will burn this place to find her. Jace asked who she was, what they wanted, but the medic only said she carries the mark, the old blood, the sealed line, and if they find her again, no star will be safe, no name will be spared. He took the girl and walked fast back to his ship. The medic ran the other way, already sending a message, already hiding. Jace felt the weight grow heavier, not from her body, but from the truth pressing down on his chest. She was not just a lost girl, not just a poor child. Someone had buried her deep for a reason. Back in the ship, he laid her down and watched as her eyes opened, slow and bright, glowing softly in the dim light. Her lips parted and she spoke, her voice a whisper in a tongue he had never heard before, and yet it filled the room like music, gentle and sharp, old and full of sorrow. He sat beside her and spoke his name slowly and pointed to himself, then to her waiting. She blinked, then touched his chest and said, Jace, her voice shaking, then pointed to herself and said, Silly. Her name simple but full of something ancient. She tried to sit up but winced in pain. He helped her lean back. She reached out and touched his face, her fingers cool but steady, her eyes wide as if studying something new, something kind. He did not pull away. Then a sound cut through the moment, a sharp beep from the console, incoming signal, no ID, no source, just one word repeated in the ancient language of the council: surrender. Jace stood up, heart racing, hands moving fast, locking doors, powering shields, preparing to run. He looked at Silly, who now sat up, eyes glowing brighter. Her hand lifted toward the screen and the signal vanished. Just like that, no trace, no warning, no attack, just silence again, but this time it felt heavy, full of questions, full of fear. She turned to him and said one sentence in clear human speech: they will not stop. Jace nodded slowly, not asking how she spoke, his tongue not asking how she stopped the signal, not asking anything, because he knew the truth. Now, whoever Silly was, wherever she came from, she was not safe. And she was not alone. She had power, she had enemies, and now she had him, and he would not let go. She crawled closer and curled beside him, her hand holding his sleeve again, her eyes closing. Slowly he sat still, listening to her breath, to the hum of the ship, to the stars beyond, knowing this was no rescue. This was the beginning of something bigger, something dark and deep and unstoppable. He whispered to her softly, you are safe now, and even if it was not true, he meant every word. The stars outside the window drifted slow and silent as Jace watched the girl sleep, her breath, even her face calm, her fingers still holding the sleeve of his jacket like a lifeline in the dark. He had seen many things in the galaxy: broken ships, crumbling stations, pirates and monsters made of wires and bones, but never anything like her, never something so small yet so full of danger. He had not slept since leaving the moon, his eyes heavy but his mind still awake, still thinking of the signal. The way it vanished, the way her hand moved, like she reached through the stars and crushed it with a thought. His ship floated in the edge of a quiet zone, no planets, no stations, no ships, only silence, the kind of silence that felt like it had teeth. AI blinked to life, warning of encrypted transmissions, nearby messages bouncing through hidden channels, names being whispered across the void. Silly alive, confirmed, destroyer-class orders issued, reward raised to red level, dead or contained only. 2 words tied to the bounty, human protector. Just leaned back, his hands shaking, his heart sinking. He had not told anyone where he was, had not sent signals, had not said a word, and yet they knew, they always knew. Someone had watched, someone had waited. The moment the cage opened, 1,000 eyes had turned. He looked at her again. The way her hair glowed faintly under the ship lights like mist in sunlight, the way her skin shimmered like water under moonlight, the way her presence made the air feel heavy and soft all at once. He did not understand her, but he did not need to. He knew what she was now, a target, a secret, a spark that could burn the whole sky. She opened her eyes and looked at him without fear, without words. She sat up and reached for the console. Her fingers touched the screen and the map shifted. Stars pulled apart, lines drawn through systems. She showed him where they were and where they should not go. Systems marked in red, ships stationed like traps, routes closed with quiet death waiting. He asked her how she knew. She said nothing, only pointed at her head, and then at the stars, as if they lived inside her, as if she felt their movements. The way a tree feels wind. The silence broke with a sharp siren. The ship shook. Lights turned, red ships approaching. 3 unknown vessels, fast and armed, their engines pulsed with power older than human. Design symbols on their hulls marked with gold and blood. They spoke in a voice not meant for peace. Vessel Saint 47, surrender. The girl or be erased. Jay said nothing. His hand moved to the controls. Eyes on the screen, heart pounding. Zelly stood beside him, her feet bare, her eyes glowing, her voice quiet like wind inside stone. She said no, and the power inside the ship pulsed. With her breath, the lights dimmed, the engines screamed, the walls hummed like they were alive. He turned the ship fast, pushing it through a field of broken rock, using shadows as shields. Silence as cover. The enemy ships followed, firing beams that tore space like paper. Heat washed over the hull. Warning lights screamed, but Jace kept flying, dodging, moving, not to run but to survive, to protect. A blast hit the left wing. Systems failed. Gravity shifted. Alarms rang. Silly stepped forward, raised her hand, and the flames vanished like dust. Her eyes burned blue. Her voice rose in a language that made the stars tremble. The enemy ships paused, just for a second, but a second was enough. Jace fired a pulse through the wreckage, striking one ship, then pulled into a dive, spinning past the others, breaking through the last line of stone and into the void. The ship groaned, the engines cried, but they were free for now. He breathed hard, sweat on his face, eyes wide, his hands shaking. Silly collapsed beside him, her body tired, her face pale, her power dimmed. He caught her before she fell and held her close, her heart still beating, her breath still warm. He carried her to the bed and covered her gently. She curled into the blanket like a child, not a weapon, not a key, just a child. Jace sat beside her, watching her sleep again, his mind racing, his body aching, but his purpose clear. He was no longer just a scavenger, no longer a man drifting through stars looking for scraps. Now he was a shield, a wall, a protector for the girl who glowed with forgotten power, the girl who held the storm inside her chest. Outside the ship, the stars turned slow, the signal of the attack fading into dark. Systems would report the event, councils would debate, fleets would prepare, but Jace would not run, he would not hide, he would guard her with his life. The stars outside no longer looked the same, they felt different, like they were watching from far away, quiet and wide. As Jace stared through the glass, his thoughts heavy, his hands still shaking from the last escape. The ship moved slow, now drifting without noise, hidden in a deep field of ice and dust where no signal could reach. No radar could scan, only cold silence wrapped them like a blanket. Silly had not moved for hours, her small body curled under layers of soft cloth, her skin still pale, her breath soft but steady. Jace sat beside her, a wet cloth in one hand, wiping the sweat from her face. She looked calm, but he knew something inside her was burning. Something old, something not made for peace. The ship AI showed strange spikes in the air levels around her, energy pulses that should not exist, numbers that changed without reason, sensors that blinked, then died, then blinked again, like her presence confused the very tools built to measure space. Jace tried to understand, but nothing made sense. Every reading broke the rules of science. Every pattern twisted into something alien. Then she opened her eyes, not slow like before, but sharp like a flash. Her pupils wide, her skin glowing with faint color, her hands rising as if reaching for something unseen. Her voice whispered in the old tongue again, and the lights in the ship dimmed with each word. Jace stood frozen, not afraid but in awe, as her body lifted from the bed, floating inches above the surface, her hair spreading around her like smoke in water. He called her name gently, not wanting to break the moment, not wanting to stop something that felt holy. Her eyes turned to him, soft and Clear like moonlight touching water, she lowered slowly back to the bed, her glow fading, her lips forming words he could understand. I remember Jess. Leaned close, asking what she meant. She said, I was not born, I was made, I was not raised, I was hidden. I was not named, I was numbered, her voice calm, but sad, each word cutting deep like a memory of pain wrapped in truth. She showed him her arm, a small mark there shaped like a spiral with stars around it. He scanned it, and the result made his blood run cold, a genetic code, not human, not alien, but both combined, fused, grown, not from love, but from need, from war, from fear. Her DNA was laced with old strands, forgotten by most, forbidden by law, the kind used to build peacekeepers long ago, the kind banned after the great collapse. Cecily said they made me to stop the war, but they feared me before I could try, they locked me away. Jace looked at her, his voice low and soft. You are not a weapon. She shook her head and said, No, I am hope. The ship shook a little from distant movement, space dust brushing the hull like fingers reaching. The AI warned of a deep scan near their position, not a ship, not a fleet, but something more, a sensor, web stretching across systems built to hunt, built to find. No matter how deep you hide. Jace powered down everything and held his breath. Silly walked to the glass, her bare feet silent, her hand touching the cold surface. She closed her eyes, and the ship felt still, like time paused, like nothing moved. She opened them again and said, They passed, they saw, but not us. Jace nodded, but did not ask how. She turned to him, her voice clear now, her body stronger, her glow steady. I can do more. I feel it now, like a fire waking, like light rising inside me, but I do not know how to use it. Jace said, We will learn together. She smiled, and for the first time it reached her eyes, not just her lips, not just her voice, but her whole self opened like a flower in the dark. She reached out and took his hand, warm and sure, her fingers no longer shaking, her grip gentle but firm. Jace checked the map again, looking for safe paths. Most were closed, some burned, some marked with danger signs. Planets blacked out, stations lost to silence. He found one place, a dead moon with no name, just a number, old mining site, no value, no life, perfect for hiding. While Silly trained, while they waited for the storm to pass us, they traveled. She practiced lifting small things without touching, reading simple thoughts, moving light with her eyes. Her joy grew each time, her laugh filling the ship with something Jace had not felt in years, something like home. But deep in the ship's storage, hidden behind metal and wires, something began to pulse, a small cube he had taken from the cage chamber, now glowing with the same light as her skin, signals bouncing silently through the walls, messages sent across the stars. Not by choice, but by blood, by bondband. Somewhere far beyond the edge of known space, a signal was received, a voice answered. A ship turned its course and a shadow moved across the map, not fast, but sure, not loud, but Finalgus did not know it yet, but the real danger was not behind them, it was coming. The dead moon circled a blue giant in silence, its surface broken and sharp with old mines and fallen towers, once full of workers and machines, now full of dust and echoes. Jace landed the ship inside a collapsed hangar, shielding it with black sheets and stone. He checked the scanners again. Nothing near, nothing far, just still space and cold rock, the perfect place to hide, or so he thought. Silly walked beside him, her steps steady, her glow quiet, her eyes sharp. She had changed, her words clearer, her voice stronger, her thoughts faster. Each day she asked more, each day she tried more, lifting tools, fixing wires, reading codes without ever learning them. She said, They come to me like rain. Jace watched her grow with both awe and fear, knowing something inside her was waking, something not small, not simple. The cube still glowed deep in the ship, each hour brighter, its signals hidden from normal scans, but Jace knew it was calling, something not loud, not fast, but sure, each blink like a heartbeat, counting down to something he could not stop. One night, as Silly slept beside him, the scanner blinked 3 times, not a glitch, not a trick, but a pattern. Jace sat up, cold sweat on his neck. The screen showed 3 small ships entering the system. No ID, no flag, no name. They moved slow and wide, like hunters not searching but surrounding. He woke Silly, who opened her eyes before he could speak. She said, They are here. Her voice calm, her face still, but her fingers curling into fists. Jace powered the ship, but she shook her head. They will see you. They want you to run. They will follow, then destroy. He looked at her and asked, What do we do? She walked to the center of the floor and sat cross-legged, her hands on her knees, her eyes closed. She breathed slow, and deep. The lights around her dimmed. The ship fell silent. Even the wind outside seemed to stop. Then The power cut all systems off, no lights, no screens, no engines, only her glow small and soft like a candle in deep water. Jace sat beside her, unsure, afraid, amazed, the air thick with something he could not name, like pressure without weight, like fire without heat. The ships landed outside one by one, silent and smooth, their doors opening with a hiss. Figures stepped out, tall, thin, wrapped in black armor, no faces, no voices, no weapons in hand, but death in every step. They walked toward the hangar, slow, certain, not rushing, not searching. They already knew. Jace stood at the door, gun ready, breath held, finger tight on the trigger. Silly opened her eyes and said no, blood, her voice low but final. He lowered the weapon but kept it close. The first figure entered, then the second, then the third, their eyes glowing red, their suits humming with old tech. Lost to time, they stopped 10 steps away, and one spoke, return the asset or be reduced. No emotion, no pause, just metal voice wrapped in common. Silly stepped forward, her head high, her glow brighter, the air around her shifting like waves. Her words clear, I am not yours. The voice replied, false, you are. Property code 39, black line broken. She said, I am not code, I am not line, I am free. They raised their arms, the room flashed, but before the light could touch her, it stopped in the air, frozen like glass, breaking in slow motion. Silly reached out and closed her hand, and the light shattered to dust. Her eyes burned blue, her feet lifted from the ground. Her voice rising, Jace watched, unable to move, her power filling the space like a storm, like a sun rising in a cave. The hunters took one step back, not from fear, not from pain, but from something older, respect, maybe memory, maybe both. She said, I am not your weapon, I am not your mistake, I am not your secret. And with that she lifted her hand, and the cube from the ship floated to her. It spun once, then cracked open, revealing a small crystal, red and silver, pulsing fast. She closed her fingers around it, and it vanished. The hunters spoke again, command overridden, unit active, return, impossible, threat level red. Retreat required. They turned without another word, walked back to their ships, and left. No sound, no fight, no message, just silence. Silly fell to her knees, the glow fading, her breath fast, her body tired. Jace ran to her, caught her before she dropped, held her close, her skin warm like light. She looked at him and smiled, soft and sad and strong. They will come again, he nodded. I know. Outside, the stars watched, cold and wide. The danger not gone, just delayed. The girl not safe, just stronger. And Jace not a savior, just a man holding the future in his arms. The ship floated once more through the dark, reaching the edge of the inner colonies, where stars grew crowded and signals overlapped like tangled wires. Jace flew low under scanners, avoiding patrols, hiding his heat trail behind debris and dust fields. His ship patched with what he could find, what Silly could repair, using her hands and her strange touch that made dead systems breathe again. Silly rested more, now quiet and still, but not weak. Her glow dimmed, yet focused, her dreams deeper, her words fewer. She spoke in symbols and pulses, sometimes in pure light. Jace watched her with worry, but also with trust. She had changed him without trying, without asking, just by being near him. News spread across the systems fast, faster than any ship could travel. Tales of a girl with eyes of light, a girl who melted weapons with a glance, a man who shielded her with old armor and broken steel. They called them ghosts, rebels, prophets, even monsters. Some wanted to follow, some wanted to find, others wanted to destroy us. Stopped listening to the outside voices. He knew the truth. She was not a threat, not a savior. She was a child with memories that hurt, powers she never asked for, and a heart that still reached for his hand when nightmares came. They landed on a station deep in the black, a place forgotten by maps, filled with traitors who asked no names and sold no lies. Jace needed food, fuel, maybe parts. Silly stayed on the ship, drawing shapes on the glass, whispering to herself, not words but sound, pure sound that hummed like old songs inside the station. Jace moved fast, kept his head low, his credits low, his words few, but something felt off. The way people looked at him, the way they paused before speaking, the way a child ran and hid behind a wall after seeing his face. Then he saw it, his own face on a screen, grainy but clear, his name wrong but close enough, a bounty blinking red, not for gold, not for crime, but for protecting. A threat, for hiding, a weapon, for harboring the end. He walked faster, heart heavy, hand near his belt, where his last weapon rested, the metal warm from worry. He made it back to the ship without being followed, or so he thought, until a soft knock came. From the outer door, not loud, not fast, just soft like a whisper trying to become thunder, he opened the screen and saw a girl no older than Silly, her skin pale, her eyes wide, her clothes torn. She held no weapon, wore no shoes, only a bracelet that glowed. Faint blue, he opened the door, and she collapsed into his arms, whispering one word, "Please, Silly." Came running eyes, glowing hands raised, but stopped when she saw the girl. Her glow faded. Replaced by silence, she walked forward, touched the girl's head, and said, "She is like me, but broken." The girl woke slowly, afraid of light, afraid of touch, afraid of herself. Her words made no sense at first. Numbers, names, screams, then silence again. She showed them marks on her arms, symbols burnt, not drawn, her memories. Full of cages and shadows, she had escaped barely. She had heard whispers of a light child, a soft man, and she had. Follow Wedges held her hand while Silly fed her, slow, careful, like a sister who remembered pain. They let her rest, watched her breathe. Listened to the quiet, and then Silly said, "More will come, not like her, not alone. They will come with fire and chains, and we must not be here." When they do, they left in silence, the station fading behind them, already lost, already burning as hidden. Ships tore through it, looking for a ghost, looking for a myth, and finding only smoke. Jace flew through dust clouds, asteroid fields, comet trails, moving like a shadow within shadows. Silly sat beside him, one hand on the new girl's shoulder, the other drawing paths in the stars, paths that did not yet exist. He asked, "Where are we going?" And she said, "To the place where I was made, to the place where they tried to end me, to the place where it must all end." Just looked at her, saw no fear, only calm, only light, only fire waiting for shape. He nodded and said, "Then we go together, always behind them." The stars began to change, new signals, new messages, words spoken by powerful mouths, calling all fleets, warning of the storm, not yet arrived, not yet known, but already feared. They said, "She is coming." The world where Silly was made floated on the edge of a dying sun, wrapped in rings of broken ships and silent wreckage. Its surface was glass and ash, burned from the inside long ago by fire that never touched the sky. Jace had never seen a place so empty, yet full of stories. Every shadow whispered of pain, every hill held a secret buried deep under the ruins of science and fear. He landed the ship near a tower that leaned like a broken tooth, jagged and black, with windows like eyes watching every step. Silly stood at the ramp, her glow brighter than ever, her eyes calm, her hand holding the new girl's fingers tight, as if her warmth could shield her from what waited. Inside, Jace stayed close, one hand on his belt, the other ready to lift her if she fell. He said nothing, because no word could help here, no word could explain this place, this silence, this end. She had chosen to return, not for revenge, not for power, but for truth, for peace, for the chance to stop the running. They entered the tower where walls hummed with memory, lights flickered without power, and doors opened without touch. Silly led the way, like she had walked these halls in another life, like her feet remembered the pain before her mind did, each step heavier than the last, each breath full of past. In the heart of the tower they found the room, round and wide, with glass above showing the broken sky, with walls marked by the same spirals that lived. On Silly's skin in the center was a circle platform covered in dust and wires and long dead machines. The new girl stepped back, but Silly moved forward, her hand raised, her voice soft. "I am home." The platform lit without power, the walls glowed with light that had no source, and the air turned warm like breath after winter. Silly stood in the middle, her body still, her glow rising, her voice clear and full of strength. "I was made, not born. I was sealed, not saved. I was hidden, not lost." The tower answered with sounds that were not sounds, memories played in light, showing faces of people long gone, voices speaking in code and fear. A council room, a needle, a cry, a cage, and then nothing. Jace watched it all and felt his heart break, not just for her, but for the world that thought this was the only way to make peace, by making a child into a weapon. Then the screen changed, showing ships moving across stars, orders given, weapons loaded, and a face appeared, the face of the Emperor, the man who ruled the silent fleets, the man who ordered the cage, the man who now watched them through the tower eyes, his voice sharp as glass. "Child, you were meant to sleep. You were meant to end." Silly did not move, her voice did not shake. She said, "I am awake now, and I choose life, not war, not chains, not silence, but hope." The walls shook, the sky flashed, the ground trembled as the Emperor's fleet arrived. Dark ships covering the sun engines, Screaming weapons aimed not at armies, not at planets, but at one tower, one child, one spark that refused to just ran to silly. But she raised her hand and stopped him, her eyes glowing white, her hair floating, her feet lifting from the floor. She said, one word enough, and the sky listened. The ships froze in place, their weapons dimmed, their engines silent. The Emperor's voice rose in panic, but his words meant nothing now because the fleet no longer answered him. They answered. Ursula turned her hand, and the tower opened to the sky, her voice carried across the stars, not through wires, but through light, through sound. Through truth. I forgive you, but I will not be your tool. I forgive you, but I will not hide. I forgive you, but I will not stop. The fleet pulled away slowly, like waves retreating from shore. One by one they turned and vanished into the dark, leaving behind no smoke, no fire, no sound, only silence and a new kind of peace, the kind born from choice, not fiercely, floated down her glow, fading, her body weak, but her face at peace. The new girl ran to her and hugged her tight. Jace caught them both before they fell, held them close, and whispered, you did it, you ended it. They left the tower as the sun broke through the clouds for the first time in years. Casting gold on the broken glass and black stone, the ship lifted slowly into the sky, carrying no weapons, no flags, no map, only a promise in deep space. Jace watched, silly sleep, her head on his chest, her hand wrapped around the new girl's fingers, their breath slow and soft. The AI no longer played alerts, the screens showed nothing but stars. And quiet. Jace leaned back, closed his eyes, and whispered, thank you, not to her, not to space, not to fate, but to the moment. The first moment he saw her in that cage, because that was the moment everything changed, not just the war, not just the stars, but him. And now she sleeps beside him, not as a weapon, not as a secret, not as a legend, but as family.